All right, we're back. We're live. I'm back. I'm live. We're gonna give Father a chance to eat. You can see my face right now. Hello, happy Sunday. I'm about to mute my cam in a second, but I'm just gonna chit chat with whoever's in the chat right now for a bit. How'd you guys? What'd you think about watching Nepenthe again? Did you change your feelings toward it? Did it land differently this time? Cake is asking, is there a book about the Fenris Rangers? Not that I could find. I don't think there is one, but there should be. There should be a show. I actually was so hype about the Fenris Rangers and Seven when Picard aired that I was totally all about a Seven spinoff. I was like calling for that, yeah, and I still kind of think it should happen. I think it'd be great. Also, Seven of Nine in Star Trek Picard really kind of I'd been wanting to go and watch Voyager, and I'd started it, from the beginning, but it really got me interested, and so I caught up quickly so I could meet Seven and see her and stuff. So yeah, Star Trek Picard kind of made me more interested in Voyager than I had been before. But yeah, so hey, Cake, welcome back to this stream. Hopefully, other folks will catch wind of it too. I just hope I didn't tweet the wrong link. I sometimes do that. Hold on, let me just check. Um, uh, I know it's Super Bowl Sunday in just 3 hours, so appreciate all of you who are also fans of Super Bowl coming here to check this out with us. Before we get started with Broken Pieces, I just want to say also regarding Nepenthe and the Troy Rikers, it's cool how we got to see more of them in Lower Decks, and I hope we see more of them as Lower Decks goes along. I feel like they're a part of that show just as much as they are a part of TNG. Thanks, Cake is Eternal. It's good to be on here. I'm not shy about showing my face, but we mute video on here so that you guys can focus on the video of the episode. So hopefully that's all right um, with you. What is shaking over in your neck of the woods there, Cake? And what are you looking most forward to in the upcoming the newer Star Trek series in Discovery, in Picard season 2, and Strange New Worlds? Of those, which are you looking forward to more? I hope Kestra is in the Academy series. Here's Father Yay. All right, I'm gonna mute my video now. Yo, Father Yay. I hope you didn't eat too fast, man. You can also eat on the show. Gates McFadden saw us eating, and she was cool with it. She was like, "Those guys eat while they're on the show, and it's all good."
Well, I had a snack of 3 boiled eggs.
Oh, that's a great snack, actually. I love boiled eggs. How do you do anything like put salt on them or
Salt and
anything?
pepper.
Just salt and pepper. It's cool.
I like hot sauce on eggs too, but
Yeah,
not. I was just doing the quick and easy.
hot sauce is good on eggs. You're right. It's like a good compliment. All right, so now that you're here, we got a couple folks in the audience. We got Blue this time. Yay, Jill's here. I really like this episode and episode 6. Um, we love your informal selves. Thank you,
Mm.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Uh,
this episode, Broken Pieces, episode 8. This is one that doesn't bother me as much now, but when I initially watched it, I was a little disappointed. It wasn't hitting the high levels of satisfaction that the previous 7 episodes had. By the way, I gotta say, like, the first 7 episodes of Star Trek Picard, like, to me, like, that's one of the best 7 episode runs of any Star Trek show. Like, there's not a bad episode in the lot out of that first 7.
mhm. Yeah, I don't remember actually. I'm sure I gave this episode a 10 on my show, but like I don't remember much about what I thought like specifically, but I do remember enjoying it. This time around, because I'm watching Voyager, I made a new connection that I hadn't before. Do you
Mm.
want me to wait to tell you when the scene's happening, or do you want me to tell you
Sure,
right
yeah, you
now?
can wait to tell us when we see it. Just
All right, cool.
the other thing I'd point out about like this episode overall is that it does feel to it does seem like it fits this niche that the modern Star Trek shows pretty consistently right, where the third to last episode of the season is kind of your setup episode for a big two-part finale. So that's what they're doing here, and it just feels like a little I don't know, like this isn't like the big episode where anything happens. It's just kind of like tidying up some of the
The
threads and then clearing the stage for whatever like your big finale is going to be.
Yeah. We do get a lot of interesting information about Ramda and well, let's get right to it. Let's
Yeah.
just go right into it. So here we go, audience. We got our Paramount now. I switched to I switched to Chrome, so hopefully I won't be behind on subtitles this time. And so here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, engage. Previously on Star Trek Picard. I like that Jerry Ryan's narrating that part.
Oh, was that
everyone
Jerry
does it
Ryan?
different. Yeah, it was Jerry Ryan in that one.
Are you sure?
I'm almost certain, but I'd have to go back
Okay.
now. Now you've put doubt in my mind.
I couldn't really hear it because you were talking at the same time.
Oh, I thought you would know from before, but who did it sound like to you guys in the audience?
Yeah, I'm sure they heard it better than I did. The way that this episode is going to open, though, after the recap, is with a flashback, though, right?
Yep.
Because that is Star Trek Picard. I wonder if they'll keep that tradition going in season 2.
I don't. I suspect not, but it would be interesting. Like, what would they flashback to? That's
All kinds of
they're
stuff.
all-
This
maybe flash
dude
forwards.
is 90 years old. He's got all
That's
kinds
true,
of
that's true.
he's got all kinds of shit in his life.
Well, if the majority of the season takes place in the past, there'll be flash forwards technically, but yeah.
Or they could flash back to things that are like going on in the past that
That's true.
we didn't. That our
Oh yeah,
heroes
that
didn't know
that's what
about.
that one little hint, that little scene might be. You're right. There might be something going on.
Yeah, there's a couple stuff in the trailer that could be flashbacks. Or maybe not. They have a new head writer. Might take things in a very different direction. But yeah, I really dig this. One of the things I keep saying in these watch-alongs is that the first season of Picard's greatest contribution, I think, to Star Trek overall is, well, the greatest is probably just, returning us to the 24th century like this. But the second greatest thing it did was the lore of Romulan culture, history, the fleshing out of things like the Tal Shiar. And the Zudvash is a little bit of a dopey idea, like a secret police within the secret police. Is there like another secret police that's within the Zotvash that's even like more dangerous? That's a little bit like a Russian doll thing. But the depiction of it here, I like the music, the chanting, the ceremony, the dialogue from O.
And it's really interesting. Romulans have a bit of a psychic ability, so they're affected by this in a way that maybe others would not. And also, I like that it took me a while to get this, and I think this might be perhaps a critique or a flaw of the show, but maybe it's more of a critique or a flaw of my cognitive abilities. But it took me a while to understand that, like, what happens with the synths later is not. So this is like a civilization that died out like hundreds of thousands of years ago. That when they created synthetic life forms that were indistinguishable from like actual life forms, and those life forms started to flourish, all of a sudden this synthetic, like they triggered what we
They triggered the apocalypse.
well, no, they triggered a synthetic first contact, and it just so happened that for whatever reason, we don't know, it's unclear, but those synths, the greater synth species that came and made first contact, destroyed all the all the sentient biological life, and we don't know what happened to those synths. Maybe they went back with maybe they were taken to another galaxy. We don't know what happened to them. But that it wasn't so clear to me until watching it like over and over and over.
Yeah.
I didn't get that 100%. And so yeah, as Jill pointed out, these Romulans
Oh, you should
are
have been watching Text Track because
I should have
we
been.
were
Yeah,
talking about
it's
that.
true. I should have been. That's true.
It was
Um,
clear to us.
yeah, unfortunately, the folks I was watching with just didn't want to analyze. They just wanted to hate on it because they didn't like the show. So unfortunately, I had a very different set of conversations on my show where I was defending Star Trek Picard and not really talking about it. And I apologize to the audience that had to do that. But I've learned my lesson since then. I've learned to get folks on that at least are enjoying the show, even if they have critiques. But yeah, so it took me a while to do that. And then I also the other thing I didn't catch, the first time around was like, um, there's just so much that they give you in dialogue, and especially in these scenes. But like, just the whole thing with the Borg cube breaking because of the knowledge of the admonition. So that's
Yeah,
interesting too, And
yeah,
so
it's because of what Ramda
Ramda,
had
yeah,
in
yeah,
her
and we'll
head.
find out that right after the credits, I think, when she goes to see Ramda.
No, I think the show conveyed that pretty. I mean, I don't know.
I
I
just didn't
never
catch
read
it
it
the
as
first time
anything
around.
other
Yeah,
than
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But I like the visuals of that sequence, and then just the shock value of like, oh, after this exposure to this, yeah, you have people blowing their brains out, bashing their skull in with a rock, and
Yeah.
Narissa does, who has been kind of a flat, one dimensional, just really nasty bad guy up until this point. It does really flesh her out and give her a little bit more dimensionality. It shows, okay, well, first of all, she's kind of a badass if she was able to endure this
Mm-hmm.
exposure to this. How many? I think there might have been 10 women, so it's only like one out of
Mm-hmm.
10 can actually come out of it fairly unscathed.
Enduring it. Yeah.
Ramda survives, but is driven totally mad to the point to where when she's assimilated by the Borg, it takes down an entire Borg cube. Like the Borg couldn't even handle this. And then here, when we see Narissa showing some care and affection for her family member and the dedication to her mission, it does give a bit of depth to her.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's the thing about Star Trek, is that it should have nuanced villains. There is no like Emperor Palpatine is just like this super nasty, just
Yeah.
evildoer that
Surprisingly,
doesn't
with the amount of
exist.
attention Star Wars plays on Palpatine, we don't really see much about him except for a few hints here and there. So yeah, we don't get to learn a lot about our friend Sheev. It's just just the Emperor. How did Sheev get the way that he did? We just get one reference to Darth Plagueis, and that's
But
it.
that's great for that other Star franchise because,
Yeah, yeah.
as our friend Aaron Harvey has pointed out, it's Joseph Campbell for fifth graders, and Star Trek's a little bit more thoughtful.
It's a little more thoughtful. Earlier in the last stream, Jill had asked. Oh, by the way, the captions are totally in sync now. Thank you, Jill. And then earlier, Jill was asking, "Do we know what planet it is?" No, I'm assuming it's the planet that the first contact occurred on by this, by the the more advanced synths that came here. But who
It's the
knows?
planet with the octenary stars. Like they basically, that's another cool thing too. I like that idea of like we're gonna do something that's pretty much like astronomically impossible, but arrange like these 8 stars in this perfect pattern in the star system as like a beacon. So like, hey, come here and check this out, intelligent beings out there.
Yeah.
Here's a warning. The
Well, everyone
Elnor
thinks.
action here is pretty cool, and then
Yeah, it
Seven of
is.
Nine's badass introduction.
I love that he hugs her too. Also, I think it's the Romulans got the impression that the admonition was left behind by the people who were destroyed, or as a warning of what could happen. But it's actually by the synths, and it was meant for synthetic life forms, and it reads totally different for them than it does for the Romulans, which is interesting too. So those synths, Father's right. The synths are the ones, the synth gods or whatever, are the ones that actually move the planets and the stars.
I don't think that's
Yeah, because the remember later in Arcadia 1 and 2,
okay. Maybe
they like established that it's the synths that left behind
okay.
the thing
Oh, and then the Romulans found it first.
first. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah,
sounds right.
yeah.
I haven't seen those last 2 episodes of the show. I haven't seen them in 2 years.
Oh wow.
was also a
Okay, that's
crazy
great.
time when we it was like right when COVID was starting. So
Unbelievable. Yeah, it's crazy to think that that was happening all during this.
yeah, it was a rough time for me. Like COVID, Antonia lost her job. Our car was getting broke
Oh
into.
wow.
Our identities got stolen. Our dog had to be put to sleep.
Man, Father. Cake says thanks for having the stream. Well, Jill was saying thanks for having the Sunday watch longs, and Cake says thanks for having them at a decent hour. I'll give some channel updates at the end. We're going to be doing more Sunday streams in future, so stay tuned for that, and at a decent
Oh, I
hour.
thought about something where I don't know. I don't know. Do you really want to do like your after dark show before you do your like? I feel like the
Oh
wouldn't the after
yeah.
dark show just become like the Trek discussion episode
Oh,
if you did
interesting. Yeah,
that?
we don't want that to happen though, because that's not a wider audience. That's not like for the general audience. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about
Okay.
that. But yeah.
I didn't know if you had thought of that yet or not. I thought I'd bring that to your attention.
I hadn't thought about that. This is an interesting development too. Rio's freaking out here because he's like, "Oh shit! Like I know you." I like that Rios wasn't listening, and then you slowly Picard has to like yell at him. It's like Rios. I love I love everyone's reaction. Hey, do we ever see Deep Space 12 in the comics or anything that you know of?
Not that I know of. The novels would have been more likely to have gone there. There's
Yeah.
more novels than comics, but it might have been mentioned in something.
Jill, my mom and I do watch Star Trek Picard together, and she's excited about season two. She has more of a crush on Riker though than Jean Luc, but she really likes Jean Luc. This is cool. When Rafi confronts him now in this next scene. Hi, Rafi. It's like Soji. Nice to meet you. I don't like how. Damn. Here's Rafi, I think, feeling a little sore about how like everyone thinks she's a conspiracy theorist, so she's trying
Well,
to
no
point
one
out
and no
to
one listened to her about Girardi, so
yeah, exactly. So
but
she's
I
like a
like
little
Vigilant
sore.
Rafi. I like when
Yeah, it's a damn good theory though. Rafi's just like, I like later she's like, oh, I'm gonna go tell Rios this because it wasn't satisfying to tell you.
Oh, I forgot that they used Viridium. It's like Star
Yeah,
Trek 6.
Star Trek 6. Except she ate it. The other thing
Like
was just a Viridium patch.
like I've pointed out before, like um Michael Chabon said he loved using the pre-existing canon. He thought that the deep, rich continuity of Star Trek was actually an advantage because it gave him things to pull from to tell his story.
100%. And he does. I find it so fascinating how much he actually pulled from everything. Like
Yeah,
it's
and I
cool.
think Terry Matalas is going to continue that tradition in seasons 2 and 3,
Oh yeah, it
just
looks like
based
it.
on what little we've seen of those upcoming Picard stories. I think that it's a safe bet that that tradition will live on.
Cake says in the book, Picard recruited Rafi because he wanted someone who would tell him the truth. I wonder if he regrets that at times.
Hmm.
I think overall he probably doesn't regret it, but yeah, there are some moments where people who are like unfailingly, bluntly honest, like it's a wonderful trait. I actually enjoy it myself too. I think I love that about people who can be that way without sugarcoating, as I tend to do. Uh, but you can see how it can be, it can land wrong if you're that way, depending on the person's emotions. I love this follow up to the Clancy Picard thing.
Yeah, here where she's kind of like, "Oh yeah, I guess you were right." But Picard is so He's so excited. He's so energized. He doesn't shut up long enough to like let her be like, "Look, I'm agreeing with you." He's just so argumentative.
I also
This
love
is kind
that.
of like how like stubborn old people are.
Yeah, I love that she's shut the fuck up too.
Yeah.
Like, Clancy's a good admiral. He gets
Yeah,
his
she's
squadron.
unique among we've seen so many Starfleet admirals. I think they kind of all need to have like their little own unique spin on them, and she definitely kind of seems like one of a kind.
How many ships do you reckon are in a squadron, Fathery?
I have no idea.
Because more than a squadron, I think, shows up at the end there. Because they're like, oh shit, he never showed up at Starbase 12. Cerulean Blue says, I had my TOS fan parents, both in their 70s, watching Disco at the beginning. They made it halfway through the third season and they gave up. Haven't watched anything else. So disappointing. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Jill says, Shaban failed to pull the fact that fans would not forgive his tossing Hugh like used tissue. I don't think he's tossed like used tissue, but I know how you feel. It was a hard pill to swallow for me
That's how
too.
Dave felt about it. I mean, I was
Yeah,
okay with
yeah,
it. I think sometimes shows should break your heart, and
yeah.
sometimes you need the baddies to actually like the bad guys have to win to make them continue to seem like a threat. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of people felt the same way as Jill and Dave. What I don't like is that they kept bringing back these recurring characters from Legacy Trek with Icheb and Maddox and Hugh, and then killed all of them. So I'm
Yeah,
like, that's starting to feel like a very repetitive pattern. So maybe cut that shit out going forward.
and maybe some vengeance going on there too. Maybe you didn't like those characters. No, I'm just kidding. So here we get some really good information about how like there is such a thing as a septenary star system, but an octenary star system. That sounds like someone had to have made it, and that's kind of like the conclusion Rafi's coming to. Also,
Yeah, the
I
the
like
Romulans had found it and buried
yeah.
it. It sounds like.
Yeah, and he found a record of it in their ancient texts and stuff like that. So yeah, it's like an interesting thing only there. And then we get the Conclave of Eight was she thought it was people, but it's actually a place, which is pretty cool. She's like so happy right now. I love when she kisses Enoch. That was Enoch, I think.
Yeah, the Irish navigator.
Navigation, yeah, the navigator. I also like that she talks to him about like he would know star charts and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like it's cool. There's a lot of thought put
Yeah,
into
they
that
should
as
use
well.
these dudes more in season two. I hope that they bring them back in season two because
Yeah, agreed.
they're kind of useful. It's more exciting to watch than just someone like asking the ship's computer like a bunch of questions and then having someone read it back in a
Hmm.
robot computer voice.
What'd you think of this scene, Fathery?
Um, I liked Seven and Elnor a lot. I like Seven, apparently having this relationship with Hugh that we never see, but we can imagine that
Infer,
they
yeah,
had crossed paths. But I feel like there's like a lot of build up and not much payoff. Like I was like, oh yeah, what if like Seven becomes like the queen of the Borg on these cube and is able to
right.
be like an ally to our heroes, and we have like
Also,
a
what a
good guy
boost!
Borg collective.
Also, what a boost it would have been to the Fenris Rangers if you had good Borg, like on your side, like going around doing good stuff. You know, like it'd have been interesting. But ultimately, I think that would have set up this whole thing where like the Borg would once the ship goes active, it's just a matter of time before the Borg are like, oh, what's going on here? We have an anomalous Borg cube. We should go investigate it. I really love the updates to the whole Borg. You know, we talked about this earlier, but like this whole scene with the Borg hollows and Seven, commanding the ship. The visuals really clearly convey what's going on, and oh, and these like the regenerative robots
Yeah,
here,
there
like
were
that's
there were
really
more
cool.
shots of the nano probes repairing the ship that they
Ship.
cut out in the deleted scenes.
Oh, that would have been great. Yeah, so it's pretty awesome. we always saw that like in the TNG, it's like wires would like bend by themselves and like reconnect and stuff like that, which was a cool way of depicting it back then. But I think I like the nano better. This is the scene we were talking about last episode, and I just adore this scene. It's a really good scene.
Yeah,
Here
we
she
saw
is.
them. We saw them. Soji finally lowered her shields, no pun intended,
Hmm.
to towards Picard and began trusting him when they were eating pizza, and now they're having, I guess, breakfast the next day and continuing that conversation. But I like the way that Picard is written here, where he's leading with his empathy, and
Hmm.
he's listening to her, reassuring her.
I like that he suggests that uh, he he's aware that he feels differently. Like he conveys his emotions differently, and part of it has to do with being always in this like role as a leader and a captain, and having to reserve how you feel, and like having to think about keep everyone else like calm and able to do their jobs. But like how he she asked him if he loved Data, and he says, "In my own way, I did." I also like how he describes Data. Data was brave, curious, gentle. I like that, unclouded by habit or bias. We all can be like that, right?
I like that too. Like Data was funny, except for when he was trying to be funny.
This is very satisfying to me, and it gets even more satisfying. But I feel like, I didn't know how when I was watching this, I didn't know how it was going to end. But those little moments, like to me, just like Data's a character I love, and I feel like in many ways I used to pretend to be an android, just like that kid did in that episode. It was like I swear, like, I swear I did. I used to pretend that I was like accessing information, and like I had it all. Like I built a lot of lore about like what androids might be like, and used to pretend that I was one. So Data was a very meaningful character, and I hear a lot of folks who are autistic or neurodivergent, I should say, saying that Data meant a lot to them because some of his
Oh yeah,
quirks and
that's a
ticks and
tradition that
things like that. Yeah,
goes back to Spock too. A lot of people felt that way
yeah,
about Spock in the original
yeah,
series.
yeah. I'm not diagnosed
But
as neurodivergent as far as I know. I'm not, but I can certainly like understand. I have something called synesthesia, which I guess is a similar. It is neurodivergent, actually. Now that I think about it, I never thought about that. But yeah, my brain chemistry is a little different. I'm tripping all the time, like, which is a weird thing to say, but it's true.
like physically tripping, like you like trip
Like
over
yeah,
your own 2 feet.
yeah, like exactly. No, my mind my brain is naturally produced, like the chemical makeup of my brain naturally produces some of the visuals that and interconnectedness of senses that like drugs like LSD would produce, or mushrooms on people. Let's see your head tilt. I actually do. I think I do a pretty good head tilt. I'll do it for you later.
Now we have our Scottish engineer hologram,
Yeah, this is a nice little.
Ian, I
This is a
believe.
nice little homage to a tradition on Star Trek of Scottish engineers. Well, no, not a tradition, I guess, but a famous Scottish engineer, I should say.
I think it's a tradition at this point. It's been done 4 different times.
Oh, so we got Scotty.
Yeah, Scotty, and then in Star Trek Discovery, when Lorca was trying to pretend to be the engineer on in the Mirror Universe,
You're right.
he did a Scottish accent.
That's what he did.
And then in the short treks, when they called their engineer woman, with number one and Spock were stuck in the elevator, and Q&A was the name of the short trek. The engineer woman had a Scottish accent.
Oh, you're totally right. Okay, fine. It is a tradition now. I also like Investigator Rafi. This gives you a hint as to like what her skills are pretty good. Like this gives you a hint as to like how Rafi might have been sleuthing out stuff back when it happened on Mars, and beforehand how she was almost onto something. I like that.
We'll have to ask our friend Robbie or our friend Geek in Review what they think of the Scottish accent.
Oh yeah. I just saw. I didn't have time to read it, but Robbie just chimed in. He hailed us on Messenger, so he's back from his trip. This guy's so creepy.
The
The
hospitality hologram. I guess he's an American accent, but
yeah, he sounds like American-ish, uh, but he's so creepy. He's so like he's such a close talker. Do you know any close talkers like this, Father?
I don't
Don't tell me
think
Dave or
so.
Brian are close talkers.
I don't know. It's not really a thing I've observed much. I guess if there are people like that around me, I've never noticed it. I'll put it that way.
Cerulean blue mic senses that are connected are yes. So sounds produce colors. So I hear colors and shapes. They produce shapes and colors constantly. So I'm always seeing. It's like 6 inches in front of me. It feels like is where the activity occurs. But I also have some tactile responses to um, some tactile responses and some olfactory responses as well. I love that
Trippy.
Rios. First of all, he loves mermaids, so he's got different ones
Yeah, I
from
like all the
different
different
sources. Yeah,
different depictions of mermaids.
but he's like very well read. He's like kind of like a academic in a way, or maybe an intellectual. But
He's a
you know,
big
he
reader.
yeah, he's a big reader. He's a big thinker too. I mean, like he seems to think a lot, like, and that's conveyed well. I think.
I
He's
gotta say,
broody.
he's looking at like his 2380s Starfleet uniform. I do wish I understand like the explanations they've given for why there's so much variety in the uniforms. I do think it would be cool if we had like the same uniform between Lower Decks, the Picard flashbacks, and Star Trek Prodigy. I think would
Hmm.
be kind of cool if it was all the same uniform. Just saying.
There was a little glimpse at the dorsal or whatever view of the Ibn Majid, so we saw
Yeah, it
that
was a cool
look.
looking ship
Yeah, it's a cool
that I
looking
think
ship.
was a John Eves design.
Hmm.
And the cigar box.
Yeah, which I use cigar boxes to store stuff in too.
They're
It's like a,
good. They're good
it's
for
a really
storing things.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. I don't know why too. They're so simple, right? Like they're just not like there's not.
And if he was a commander, so if you
Yeah.
look at all the rank pips that are in here, they you have like the exact right amount if you have ensign on up to commander because I counted them when this came out.
Oh, right
There's
on.
like
I
one
actually
gold for ensign, a gold and a black for lieutenant junior grade, two golds for lieutenant senior, all the way up to commander.
that's cool. I like that they're magnetic too. They're like he puts them on that little piece of metal there. And now the drawing was made by the other synth, right? Blue, beautiful flower, I think was the name of the synth, and he's kept this. This had me so hype and excited when it came out. It still gives me that thrill, but I really like this. I loved Seven having to do this. So now I'll point out the thing. She talks about how like they're not connected to the Borg collective, but that she could create like a mini collective here to kind of like give them that what Borg really desire. And she's like, they might not want to be free from it, and I might not want to. And it reminded me of this really great episode of Voyager I just saw recently. And I can't remember the title, but it's recalling a time when Seven and her contingency, her little Borg pod crashed on a planet and were disconnected from the collective,
Oh,
and they
and
all
she
started.
reassimilated all of them.
Yeah, and she reassimilated all of them. So she's carrying that pain here because that was painful for her. They even blamed her. They didn't like her as much. Like even though at the end, and actually it's a sad story because at the end they were all just gonna die. They had only like months to live or something like that.
Hmm.
And the one, and so to me that was like heartbreaking. And I hadn't seen that before I saw Picard. And now that I've seen it, like to me, I read a little bit of that when she's talking about it, and she's like kind of mentions like they might not want to be unassimilated. I might not want to let them go. It touches on some of the themes that they brought up in that episode. This is the scene.
Emmett, the Spanish speaking tactical hologram. I think he's my favorite.
Yeah, he's badass. Do you like this effect whenever they're like recalling data? Um, uh, I feel like Data used to do that, but he would look off and you knew what he was doing. But now we have that little light pattern that goes on in their eyes. I think it's
Yeah, I mean,
creepy.
like it's an efficient way to convey to the audience what's going on. They have to do it so much in this episode. It'd be weird if they were just kind of like staring at the ceiling or something. You
Yeah.
know, it'd be like, wait, what are they doing? Are they all doing like the same thing?
I love that Emmett falls asleep. He's just like not interested in anything. He's like, you don't need tactical. I don't need
I go to a
to
lot
be
of I
like.
go to a lot of heavy metal concerts here in Texas, and I meet like a lot of there's a lot of dudes like Emmett that speak Spanish and have long hair and a lot of tattoos, and
It
I,
turns out
I
we
feel
don't
like I
actually
see that
have.
personality a lot in my real life.
Interesting. We don't have quite as much of that going out here in Miami. But I was part for a short while. I was in the indie rock scene, and so I met a few indie rockers with tattoos. I like that we get little. So the episode title is Broken Pieces, and I like that literally we're getting all these like broken pieces come together in this episode to give us like a more clear picture of what's going on. And also, like all of them are kind of like broken pieces. The all these hollows are little pieces of Rios, and that's why she has to use them to like get that information. Maybe it's a little too on the nose, but we also have the characters are all broken pieces, right? Girardi's broken, Rios is broken,
Hmm.
so it's like, oh, but you are. Oh yeah, it's not even a language. Rafi saying that. It's funny. Man, I love the use of the Dutch tilt here. I think it's very appropriate. I think sometimes people don't use Dutch tilts right anymore, but here it's a good use
And there's a certain uneasiness in the
about
camera
it. Yeah.
floating back and forth here.
CB says Rios is broken, and during this season, Picard leads him to finding some missing pieces. Not all placed together yet, but there is at least in the box, and Rios has the picture to work from now. Yeah, at the end of this episode, there's a really great moment between Rios and John Luke, which I appreciated a lot. I love that conversation between them. Can we get a reference to Marta Benedictis? She's called Johnny in Tapestry. Hey, Johnny.
Yeah, good use of the cannon.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, one of the things that freaks me out about that is the one robot turning into Data almost it looks like, and I'm like, ah, don't do that. You can see right here how much that vision affected her. That's got to be wild. I don't know if the show, for me, I don't know if you can ever convey something like, a vision making you so crazy. Um,
It was a risky move because when they set up the stuff with whatever is driving Girardi crazy, forcing her to kill Bruce Maddox, whatever, like it needed to be something with like an incredible payoff. And I got like that initial shock value, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna be glued to the screen now because I have to know what is the answer to this question. But at the same time had a fear like they might not be able to deliver on that payoff. But I think, yeah, like the idea of like galactic apocalypse, like that's hard to imagine something worse than that.
Yeah.
I kind of almost wish that like the visuals showing it, if they would have had like a little higher level of intensity, or just at least like some type of visual device to imply something that terrible and dreadful. But conceptually, I think it works.
Yeah, I agree. Conceptually, it does work. I almost wish they hadn't shown any of the admonition vision. Like, it's almost creepier, or like it's almost like one of those things. Like, it's so wild that you can't even imagine it. So why not? Like maybe not show it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's like that H.P. Lovecraft thing of something like sights so horrible they drive you mad.
yeah,
It's easy to write that in a novel. It's very hard to show that on screen.
yeah, exactly. Because like none of that stuff like makes me feel like I would go mad
I
from
mean, I
seeing
like
it.
the reaction of the Romulans, but
Yeah,
again, like that's just like reactions. That's not
right.
the actual vision. Shooting your head, bashing your skull in, ripping your face off. That's all really intense stuff. But
Actually, absolutely. Like that's enough. Like that would have made me, without seeing the visuals, that would have made me like really wonder, like, oh man.
is it weird
Um,
to you, Rafi, calling the record player a Walkman?
it was a little weird, but also at the same time, I thought it was funny.
Star Trek doesn't tend to do those jokes. Like,
No, that's a Doctor Who
future people don't get like
stuff confused like
modern day
that.
stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess Walkmans and record players aren't really modern day anymore, but
I guess
they
that's the
they
thing
were
that
modern when we were younger.
the Calvin films kind of jokingly play with that, with calling Beastie Boys like classical
Classical
music.
music. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a
so
Futurama joke. One
yeah,
time,
so
Fry was listening to Sir Mix-a-Lot, and then Leela came in the room and was like, "Fry, you can't just lay around in your apartment listening to classical music all day."
Uh, Jill says, I'm appreciating all of the La Serena crew members so much more on this watch along. This is cool. This is going back, harkening back to, I feel like this brings Girardi back to herself a little bit, because she did have that fascination and that love, um, about for synthetic life forms. And like genuinely, she was part of the team. Bruce Maddox credited her work with being essential to creating Soji, and Dodge. So it's kind of neat. Maybe she's the wicked mother,
The wicked stepmother.
the wicked mother who killed her father. That like the but now she's like seeing her creation, or like the fruits of her labor, the fruits of her work, and she's astonished by it. And like I love like little things, like she's asking these questions, and you could tell
Yeah,
Girardi's like,
this kind of gets Girardi out of her funk when
yeah,
this is like her passion. This is like her life's work.
right.
Now seeing it uh, face to face like this, it's that eager, excited scientist we saw in the first episode.
And it makes it more heartbreaking that she even was brainwashed and had to do all that other stuff, because like she's got to live with that. She's remembering all that, but this is the true Girardi here. And I like that she makes that promise. Like I love, first of all, I love that Soji's like, I would never give you the chance to kill me or destroy me, and she's like, I promise I would never do that again. I would never do it. Like I'm over it. You could tell she's kind of like come to her senses finally. She's let it go. Uh, CB says Picard has the most development of all the characters throughout this season. Seeing a tired and defeated old man dragged back into the fray by a ragtag bunch of misfits, returning spark to dying flame. Yeah, totally agreed. And a little help from his friends too, the Troy Rikers. I keep saying it wrong. Is Girardi old enough to have contributed to the science early enough to create Beautiful Flower and Jane 10 years ago?
I
Yeah,
don't think we know how old she
she
is, but
is. Oh yeah, but I think she
she might have
is.
been like a student 10 years ago who was
Hmm.
helping work on this, and then now she's like 30. I don't know.
I think she is. I think she's somewhere in her 30s, and so it makes sense. She could have been
No, Allison
involved with that.
Pill is that old, I think, but
Yeah,
she looks like she could be younger. Um, Here we get Rios's
yeah,
backstory of
and it's heavy as
Captain
AF.
Alonzo Vandermeer,
Hmm.
who killed the two Cents and then killed himself.
Well, and
Uh,
we find out how far back O's treachery.
yeah,
has been going on, and a black flag. What was it? Order? What is that? Do you know anything about that? Like black flag
I mean, this is
orders?
something they made up
Yeah,
here,
made
but
up.
yeah, I
Yeah, it
mean, it
sounds
was all
heavy.
O as the head of Starfleet security,
Hmm.
pulling the strings and probably mind melding, controlling her way through whoever she needed to in Starfleet.
That's true. Everyone was worried about those little alien creatures going into the. Here's like mind melding everyone.
Yeah, one of the most successful infiltrations of Starfleet Command out of the multiple times we've seen it, with the conspiracy bugs or the changelings or whatever. I've mentioned it before, but my Text Trek podcast co-host Dave, he has a joke saying that yeah, there's an admiral at Starfleet who's controlled by one of the bugs from Conspiracy, and they're talking to another admiral, and they're like, wait a minute, have you infiltrated Starfleet? Are you an imposter? This is so embarrassing. I'm actually a Dominion changeling. I'm one of the founders. I've also infiltrated Starfleet. And then like someone else comes in the room and like, oh, I overheard. Yeah, I'm actually like a Tal Shiar undercover agent. We've all infiltrated Starfleet. Wow.
Hmm. This is so heartbreaking. She just like murders all these XB, and then she's like, "Oh, that one didn't work."
Cold
Obviously, so
hearted. Yeah.
cold-hearted. Yeah. Oh, by the way, that's Michael Chabon's son.
Is the Romulan?
Yeah,
He's a Centurion, right?
a
Or was that
Centurion. Yeah, or he would
the
be
other
a
guy
Jad
was
Vash
the
operative,
Centurion?
maybe. Yeah, but yeah, they probably have the same ranks.
Well, they brought back the rank Centurion
Hmm.
and a colonel. She's a colonel.
Hmm.
A lot of times whenever they show someone in the Tal Shiar, they're a colonel, right? I think Troy was supposed to be a colonel when she went undercover as Tal Shiar and face of the enemy, and I think what's her name? Troy's daughter. I mean, Yar's daughter.
Sela.
Sela. Yeah, Sela was a colonel, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I wanted to see more here of like Seven of Nine going into God mode.
Hmm.
I wish that they would have. I kept saying like, "Oh, they're saving something big for the finale with this Borg cube," and it never really did anything.
It crash lands.
Yeah, yeah, like when it crash lands on the planet, I'm like, look, it's just sitting right there. Like they're about to do something with this Borg cube, and like
Oh,
it didn't do anything.
that's heartbreaking because these Borg could have been good. They could have all been
Well,
XBs.
drones survive in
Can survive in
space.
space apparently. Yeah, so that's true.
So yeah, I think what's going on here is that was like a distraction for the Romulans to evacuate because they get
Hmm.
off the cube, right?
Yeah, that's what it totally was. Also, that cube could get off the planet at some point if its regenerative abilities are still intact. So, the cube could come into play
I'd
again.
like it to do something, or at least like the Borg, the XBs go and become friends with the synths since they're
Oh,
neighbors
right
now.
on. Yeah. Oh, and the synths have such great creative and advanced technology, like with that weird, cool sonic screwdriver thing, that who knows, they could maybe do a better job at unborging them. That'd be a nice little, like a little somewhere in dialogue or something to get a follow up that like the Borg and the synths are working together, or just see the positive way the synths are getting reintegrated into society now that the band's gone and stuff. This is another good scene. A lot of table scenes, huh? Sitting around the table. Classic Trek.
Well, classic for Next Generation.
Yeah, for TNG. I mean, I think Troy says ready room because it's familiar, but really that like what she should have said was like
The
pretend our
conference room.
our dining table is the conference room.
No, there were a lot of important meetings took place in the Ready Room too.
Yeah.
That's probably where Picard felt like the most powerful and in control. Was the Ready Room.
You don't think in his chair on the bridge?
Um,
Because I feel like
not
sometimes
not
he's
for like a
vulnerable.
conversation.
Oh yeah, it's true. That food is disgusting. Ice cream and French fries.
Yeah, a lot of people do that apparently. I never
Really? Oh, okay. I didn't
or
know.
like milkshakes. Like they'll dip French fries into their milkshake.
I don't know if I could ever. I think I've tried that and it didn't vibe with me. I also tried fish fingers and custard, and I didn't like it, but apparently it's a thing now. People are like loving that.
Uh, People don't really like that. They just,
They just pretend
yeah, they
to.
just saw it on a silly TV show.
Jill says nothing came of this reclamation project except cash for the Romulans and a few survivors on the synth planet.
Yeah. I often wonder, Jill, if there was like a if there was like a bigger plan. Because they said that, like they changed some of their story, well, a couple of times, but yeah, I'm wondering if they were originally going to build to something else and then had to change course.
Uh, CB says, according to Shaban, there's a scene that was written but not shown with the XBs and the crash cube creating a new life on the planet with the synths, the Soon Kid, and the crazy auntie. Oh, interesting.
It's
Oh, Ramda
possible we
was.
revisit
Wait a
that.
second, Ramda. They left Ramda on the frickin' cube. I would have thought Narissa would have taken Ramda with
Hmm.
her, or like beamed her off. Interesting, but that would have been cool actually. Redemption for Ramda.
I do think that we might see more of their planet in season 2 of Picard. I know like the primary focus is going to be on Earth in the past and doing all this stuff with Q, but I think it would be cool just to touch base with their synth world if like maybe
I hope so.
they like I was thinking like maybe Soji's role in the future could be like she's like the synth ambassador to the
Oh, I like
Federation
that. Yeah, I
or
love
something
that.
like that. If not her, then somebody. So here we're piecing together they finally have figured out what could have made the Romulans sabotage their own rescue mission, and now we know.
Now we know. So this kind of there's a theory floating around that the virus or whatever that they were able to use the Star Trek Prodigy, whatever's on the protostar that is supposed to disable Starfleet, that somehow that might be what ends up disabling the synths on Mars. But I just think that's too loose because here it's pretty clear that the Jatvash designed and created the whole conspiracy and infiltrated the synth
Yeah,
programming
I
and
mean it's
everything.
possible
Yeah.
that O co-ops the diviner's computer virus and uses it.
It just seems like such a stretch though. But it could,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know if they're gonna connect those dots, but it could. I mean, that seems like something they would do in like the novels or something.
Oh, Cerulean Blue, can you send me those transcripts if you don't mind? Because I've been looking for that because I remember how delightful it was that Siobhan was answering so many questions on Instagram, but it was so much that I forget a lot of the cool little details that he did. I wish all that stuff was on the. I wish there was a commentary for each episode on the Blu-ray, but there isn't.
We'll watch those story log things.
Yeah.
They're pretty good. I would argue they're more efficient than a commentary because they're only like 10 minutes long.
So here's Soji blocks out Rios, and I love that he has a an anti-block or an unblocking protocol, which is his mom's lullaby, and he sings it.
Now, they take inspiration from the speaking of Star Trek Prodigy for some of the vast distances traveled. You know, why is there a Ferengi in the Gamma Quadrant? Stuff like that. Uh, the Prodigy producer slash writer or writer slash producer,
Aaron
Aaron J.
Walkie.
Walkie,
Hmm.
he said that they use this as justification that like yeah the galaxy is a smaller place, people are a lot better at figuring out how to go fast, how to go faster than fast, that things like transwarp, slipstream, I guess proto warp, now these technologies are in existence.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, that makes 100% sense. Um, CB says, I have faith that Mark Bernardin is working on staff of Picard and he wants that side of the story told. I think he may squeeze it into the future at some point after the Q nonsense is over.
He
Picard lets
wants
down
what
Baratheon
does
return.
Bernardin want?
He thinks that we'll visit the synths.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need like a whole another season based around their storyline, but it just would be nice to touch base with them.
Yeah, I agree too.
Uh, it, but I don't know. I don't know how big of a part Soji or Elnor play in seasons 2 and 3 because they don't seem to be in
Yeah, I'm a
much of the
little worried. I'm
trailers.
I'm hoping they're doing a good job in holding back like 99% of what happens in the season. I hate when trailers like I was commenting about how in Jurassic Park we saw Dr. Grant and Dr. Sattler reunite in the trailer, and I wish that hadn't happened. Like that kind of bothers me a little bit. So hopefully, even though we saw Guinan and Jean-Luc reuniting on the Picard trailer, I'm hoping there's way more great moments that'll make up for that. I get it. You do have to entice people to watch. Oh, this is so great. Like she thinks they just like snap the guy's neck. Now you do see her getting transported off here, but I was like so happy. It would have been so satisfying if they actually did get
They just
revenge on
ripped her
her.
apart.
Yeah, like actually, because she's like cold and heartless and brutal with them. Like this is it's kind of like justice.
I like this Romulan music that
Yeah, I
Mercer
want to get this.
composed.
I've been meaning to order this model. I think Eagle
Hmm.
Moss has it now, right? Like that ship, the new Romulan warbird
Perhaps.
or whatever. Yeah,
I know they have some of the Picard designs.
there's definitely stuff that was cut out because do you remember they had a shot of the Romulan ships going to Mars for some reason, or some planet that looked like Mars? Do you remember that in the early teasers or trailers for Picard?
Mm.
I'll show you
Oh
afterwards.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
vaguely.
I like that whatever she was possessed by her queen self, her god mode, says Annika still has work to do and lets her go. This is cool. This is that conduit. I like that perspective of it, seeing it from the outside a little bit.
References to Picard serving on the Reliant. That actually
Hmm.
ties into a deleted scene from Measure of a Man, where they established
Oh,
that Picard was on a
I
Reliant.
I almost was that put back in the extended version because I almost feel
Yeah,
like
it was.
it was, yeah, because I remember seeing it that way. Okay. Um, this is the scene I was telling you that I really love, and he was mentioning how he loves space and he'd forgotten about that until now, like at the night shift on the Reliant, and now this is where they're talking about Captain Benedictes and Vandermeer and the connection between
Yeah,
them, and
good use of continuity.
great. And the music here is so good. I don't know, I'm getting goosebumps and like teary eyes always. I also love what Jean-Luc says about Starfleet and how like we could have sidestepped the trap, but we fell right into it because of fear.
Hmm.
One of the best Starfleet had to offer. I really want, if he wants it as a character, I really want Rios to get back his commission and you know, I think he should be recommissioned as a
You think that's
captain.
how like the show should end is with them going or with Rios going back into Starfleet?
I think Rios, Rafi should totally go back to Starfleet.
I
They're
mean,
like Starfleet's better off with
I'm
them in
mixed
it.
on that. I don't want it to be like the only like good option is Starfleet. I like the
Right.
I'm a big fan of like Jake Sisko like not going into Starfleet deciding to do something else. Like it's kind of like I don't want to see like the Federation be so big like every single culture is part of the Federation. Like I think it should be like no, like some people are like, that's good for you, but it might not be the best thing for me. It's I don't want the Federation to be like the Borg, assimilating everyone. I don't want it to be like Starfleet. Starfleet's the only like good thing. Everyone has to be in Starfleet. If you haven't reached your perfect form unless you're good enough to be in Starfleet.
Yeah.
I don't want it to take on that kind of vibe.
I hear you, but I don't know. It feels like Rios is meant to be in Starfleet. Like he's so, like they kind of hinted all that with like you keep your ship like a
You can
star.
take the
Yeah,
boy out of Starfleet. We can't
but
take
you
the
can't take
Starfleet out of the
sort
boy
of the
type
boy.
thing.
Yeah, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
they definitely have enough there that they could
That would be a payoff
they
to
would have a
that.
through
Yeah,
line if they did that.
yeah.
Yeah, it would feel natural.
Jill says Stewart is so good here. My heart will burst now. Yeah, ditto, ditto, kiddo.
Yeah, he's good throughout this show, but
That was a particularly touching move. I like how he says fears the destroyer not, and then Soji walks in that moment. Ooh, La Serena looks so pretty there. All those
and then the
reflections.
reveal of the snakehead ship
It's been
decloaking.
following him all along. Yay! That was awesome. That was hella fun. Thank you so much, Father. Thank you, audience. Thanks for coming back and
Yeah, so
hanging out with
next
us.
week we're going to be starting an hour early. We're
Yes,
going to do the finale, both parts to the finale at
that's right.
Encardia Ego.
I'm really excited. Next week, guys, tune in at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, noon Central. And I guess you could do the math wherever else you live. But yeah, so we'll see you guys next week. Fathery, anything to promote going on over on Text Trek that you want to tell the audience about?
Sure, there's always a lot going on at Text Trek. You can check out our live show on YouTube every Friday night at 7 p.m. Central, where we discuss the newest episodes of Star Trek. Every week, we take our new episode and give it a deep dive analysis. And you can also listen to that show wherever you get your podcasts. We're
Absolutely.
currently, we just got back started on Star Trek Discovery season 4. We wrapped up some Prodigy not that long ago. Very soon, we're going to be covering both Discovery and Picard at the same time, and then when we get through a season of Picard, we're going to be doing Strange New Worlds, and then later in
I'm
the
so
year we'll have
excited.
more Lower Decks. So lots going on there, and we're going to get back to talking about like some legacy Star Trek too. We're gonna, I think, revisit Deep Space Nine some point this summer, and whatever time allows, we still
Where'd
have
you
some legacy Star Trek we haven't reflected on. So
where did you and Dave leave off on DS9?
we've gone through the first 4 seasons.
Oh, awesome.
So
So
we need to do seasons 5, 6, and 7. We've covered the animated series, some other stuff. So if you're a fan of hearing legacy Star Trek being discussed, you can also find that on Text Trek.
excellent. Well, I'm hearing some good stuff about these Sunday streams. So yeah, stay tuned. We'll be doing these Sunday streams. Starfleet Boy will figure out the Starfleet Boy After Dark conundrum, but but we'll figure it out. But in the meantime, everyone, please, if you could give us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you next week, and also you could check out on Thursday. We'll be doing a live broadcast at 7:30 p.m. Discussing and really reacting to the latest episode of Star Trek Discovery because it's the same day that it drops. Friday nights we do TQIF with Text Trek and Starfleet Boy After Dark. Saturdays we've been doing our TOS discussions. I can't even remember what is the next episode. Oh, the Tholian Web, right?
Yeah, Tholian
Yeah,
Web Saturday.
Saturday. So this coming Saturday is the Tholian Web at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and then Sunday another double feature, as we already said, 1 p.m. and a little earlier start time for in Arcadia Part 1 and 2 of Star Trek Picard. Thank you, Fathery, so much. This is such a joy. I'm kind of getting sad that we're gonna end, but we'll have lots of other streams to do soon together. I've been really enjoying this, so I appreciate your time. Also, thank you, audience. You guys are so wonderful for contributing in the chat. I hope the format works for you, that you get to enjoy our discussion while watching along. But we really appreciate everything. Enjoy your Super Bowl if that's what you all are doing next, or just your Sunday afternoon, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.